We've got yet another combo for you today, and the first item on our menu is regarding a price increase or potential price increase for DDR4 DRAM. However, the second item is yet another slap in the handbag fight between Qualcomm and Apple. But first, the price increase, as we have a report from DRAM Exchange who are reporting that a general price increase in the PC DRAM market is growing larger than anticipated. Basically, we have a situation where the supply is already quite tight, and this is not being helped by quality problems with products made on leading edge processes. Basically, when it comes to high-end RAM, the yields have not been as high as they thought, and combine this with supply already being a little bit thin on the ground, and of course you have what they do have being priced higher than expected. Now, DRAM Exchange are estimating, based upon a preliminary survey of completed contracts for the second quarter, that the average contract price of 4GB DDR4 will go up about 12.5%. Now, this is $24 to $27, which doesn't sound like too bad. So, oh, it's only a few dollars, but again, this is for 4GB, and obviously there's no mention of like the clock speed or anything like that. So if you're talking like the top end RAM, you're probably going to see more of a price increase and more of a significant price increase, given that of course the base price is already quite high. Now, I do have a comment here from Avril Wu, who is Research Director at DRAM Exchange, and she said, quote, PC OEMs that have been negotiating their second quarter memory contracts initially expected the market supply to expand, because Samsung and Micron have begun to produce on the 18nm and 17nm processes respectively. However, both Samsung and Micron have encountered setbacks related to sampling and yield, so the supply situation remains tight going into the second quarter, and PC DRAM prices will continue to rise through this 3-month period. Now, breaking out of quote here, there's something I just want to mention. For those of you who perhaps been toying with the idea of a Ryzen build, I remind you that DDR4 is pretty much what Ryzen requires, and obviously high clock speeds like 2933+, etc. That's what this is going to be affected by, basically. So the price of that RAM could go up and obviously increase the cost of the build fairly significantly. So if you're thinking of going with Ryzen, you may want to buy the RAM first while the prices are still reasonable. But as always, do make sure that the RAM is actually qualified for use with Ryzen, otherwise you might be in a bit of a pickle. But of course, AMD are in the process of releasing BIOS updates and whatnot to basically increase the amount of RAM that is compatible with Ryzen, but until then, you know, best to just play it safe and go with what you know is going to work for certain. Now, basically what I can take from Avril's comments there is that basically they were relying on both Samsung and Micron to basically not have issues, and both of them have been having issues at the same time. Samsung have recently started to mass produce 18nm, and obviously the high defect rate for the 18nm processors has hindered the supply of shipments, and obviously when you've got a higher level of technology for actually, you know, building the thing, there are generally more problems to go alongside that. And of course, Micron is hard work with their 17nm products, but apparently they're also having problems and the process is taking longer than they thought, and they are likely to delay mass production for that process beyond 2Q17. So basically they've both run into problems pretty much at the same time, and as a result prices are going to increase. Now, before we move on to our second item, we do have one more comment from Avril here, as she said, quote, besides the larger price hike for PC DRAM products, prices of server DRAM products for the second quarter are projected to rise by 10 to 15% sequentially on average compared with PC DRAM and server DRAM products. Mobile memory products will have the smallest price increase during this 3-month period, estimated at under 5% from the preceding quarter. The moderate price uptick for mobile memory products is mainly attributed to slowing shipments from China-based smartphone makers. On the other hand, prices of eMCP products are expected to go up by around 5% versus the first quarter due to the additional factor of NAND flash storage. So, as I said, if you're thinking of investing in a build with DDR4 RAM, I suggest you buy the RAM first. But let's move on, shall we, to the handbags at dawn, that is the court case between Qualcomm and Apple. Now, of course, I have discussed this in the past, And basically Qualcomm have been accused of numerous things, none of them good. Basically they are being investigated by the US Federal Trade Commission for anti-competitive behaviour. This was based on some complaints from Apple, and they also claimed that Qualcomm was abusing its monopolistic position by tying consumers into using Qualcomm processors exclusively, refusing to license things, and a bunch of other shady stuff. I've covered this at length in the past, so go find my video on it if you want to know all the details on that. But basically, Qualcomm have filed a countersuit against Apple here, basically saying that the lawsuits from Apple and the complaints from the FTC are the result of Apple, quote, misrepresenting facts and making false statements. And apparently they went so far as to say that Apple has, quote, interfered with Qualcomm's long-standing agreements with Qualcomm licensees that manufacture iPads and iPhones for Apple. And they have also breached agreements, apparently, and also mischaracterized agreements and negotiations with Qualcomm. So it seems that, despite the fact that the FTC have felt the need to get involved after Apple's complaints, Qualcomm are saying that, nope, this is all wrong, it's just Apple misrepresenting the facts. And of course, it's entirely possible, but it is still amusing nonetheless to see this big corporation just basically going, no, you're in the wrong, no, you're in the wrong, no, you're in the wrong, while the lawyers just count their money and laugh, basically. So we'll have to see how this lawsuit goes. I've got a feeling it's going to be a long one because, yeah, they've both got a lot of money to burn on expensive lawyers. Anyway, that's me done for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.